Hi everyone, my name is Kalam from Kalam Hussain Productions. Today I'm going to be discussing Thorpe Park Resort's proposal for their brand new world-class rollercoaster, codenamed Project Exodus. On the 27th of November this year, Thorpe Park released a website inviting guests and local residents to a public consultation. This was held on Thursday the 9th of December, and the following morning the full proposal was released online. This outlined Thorpe's plans for the new coaster and the development of the Old Town area of the park. The proposed site for the new coaster is approximately 1.7 hectares and is surrounded by dense forest to the northwest and a lake in the centre. This project will involve the removal of the now defunct Loggers Leap, Timber Tugboat, Lumber Jump and Rocky Express, as well as the Platform 15 and Creek Massacre Fright Nights mazes. The resort is currently looking into the future of these attractions. Loggers Leap, the Rocky Express and Canada Creek Railway all opened with the new Canada Creek area in 1989. The railway closed permanently in 2006 due to dwindling ridership. Then, in 2015, Loggers Leap closed and sat standing but not operating until 2019, when it was announced it would never reopen. 2 years prior, in 2017, it was also announced that Slammer, a two-of-a-kind SNS Skyswap, would never operate again due to maintenance issues. After all the closures in the area, Old Town looked abandoned. The addition of two small family flat rides, being Timber Tugboat and Lumber Jump, did not help to revitalise the area. The future of the Old Town area of the park was looking uncertain, that is, until now. And that brings me nicely onto the new proposed hypercoaster, Project Exodus. This world-class coaster will stand at a massive 72 metres or 236 foot tall, taking the UK height record from the big one at Blackpool Pleasure Beach, which currently stands at 213 feet tall. From the concept images and overhead view the park has published on the website, we can see the new life it will give to the Old Town area of the park, with a new plaza, shops, photo point and of course station building, with a maintenance shed and multiple queue lines, including a separate RAP queue line for disabled guests. We have enough information to determine the rough layout of the coaster and who the potential manufacturers could be. Now bear in mind, these are subject to change when the planning permission is submitted next year. Now, from the station building, you can see that the first turn into the lift hill is outer banked, starting off the ride with a very unique and exciting element, especially as this goes right over the queue line. You then enter this enormous 236 foot lift hill. Overlooking the lake and the areas around Saw the Riding Colossus, this will undoubtedly be the best view of any coaster in the park, possibly even the UK. You then crest the top of the 72 metre tall lift hill, overlooking the lake and surrounding areas. You then enter a beyond vertical 180 degree drop. This is unlike anything I have seen before. You are going to feel a decent pop of ejector airtime, not to mention the laterals coming back under the lift structure. After being whipped around and pulled down that massive drop, you then enter what looks to be a gigantic Immelman, where you level out at the top around 160 feet above the lake and get pulled straight back down into a drop with an abundance of ejector airtime. Whether this Immelman is inverting or if it's more of a junior element, I can't say for sure, but it looks insane. After this is the weirdest element on the entire ride. It starts out as an outer bank turn, which is taller than the first element by the way, and then as you are thrown out of your seat and round the top looking directly over the lake, you are pulled back down in what seems to be a heartline roll, making this the second and most unique inversion on the ride. The abundance of ejector airtime and laterals found on this element is insane. This is truly going to be the best element on the entire ride. Not only does the UK lack airtime, but it also lacks highly intense laterals like this ride can offer. This one element makes this possibly the best ride in the UK, but more on that later. After the Heartline roll, you then level out and dive up into a stalling dive loop. The hang time on this looks insane, especially with it being that high above the lake. Not only that, but this stalling dive loop goes up straight over in between the middle of the Immelman and the first drop / lift hill structure. That is insane. There's going to be so many near-miss elements on this ride because of how compact and how tight space some of these elements are in. It's going to be like nothing else you can find in the rest of the park. You then drop back down into a splashdown element which will send water flying up behind the train. This could be used to slow the ride before the final few elements. The proposal also involves a plaza being built right next to the lake, giving breathtaking views of not only the coaster but the splashdown as well. My only concern with the splashdown being real, similar to Diamondback at Kings Island, is that the park would not want untreated lake water being sprayed up at guests. So due to that, I predict this splashdown will be artificial, using treated water and some sort of magnetic braking system to slow the train, similar to Shambhala at Portaventura. But whether it's real or artificial, this element will be amazing on-ride and look spectacular off-ride to guests. After the splashdown, you go up and into an outer bank turn. You then twist out of that into another right hand turn and then into the last element, a camelback hill. Both of these elements should provide great airtime and high laterals on the outer bank turn. After the camelback, you coast into the final brake run and the ride comes to an end. To summarise, this coaster does look shorter than what we expected, but this ride really does pack a punch throughout the layout, making it worth the shorter ride time. Also, the final layout may be longer, but we will not know yet for sure. And don't forget, this coaster is 236 feet tall. It will be flying through the layout, making it even more intense and enjoyable. And that final outer bank turn and camelback hill being taken very low to the ground is going to provide great pops of airtime to end off the ride. Project Exodus truly has potential to be the best coaster in the UK. Now, as for who will be manufacturing this ride, the park has said they are still in discussions. However, during the consultation, they compared the sound of the coaster to a ukrides hypercoaster in Turkey. This doesn't make it certain that Mach will be constructing this beast of a coaster, but they are the most likely option. Besides, this layout is something Mach could easily accomplish, and their hypercoaster trains feature very comfortable lap bar restraints. Remember earlier when I was talking about that insane hang time on the dive loop? Imagine that with comfortable lap bars. That alone makes this the best option in my opinion. Also, the former log flume Logger's Leap, which will be removed to make way for this new hypercoaster, was manufactured by ukrides. This is insignificant, but would be cool to see another Mach project in its place. Now, as for other possible manufacturers, I can see Intamin being up there as the second highest potential, as a lot of the elements look similar to what Intamin has done before. Plus, Thorpe Park has worked with Intamin on Stealth, Colossus and even on Rumba Rapids in the past. Now, these next two are unlikely, but would be interesting to say the least. First, we have S&S, as this coaster reminds me a lot of Steel Curtain over in Kennywood. The resort has previously contracted S&S to build two flat rides for the park in 2005, that being Rush and S&S Screaming Swing and Slammer, a now defunct S&S Skyswap which closed in 2017. I doubt Thorpe would work with S&S again after the issues with Slammer. Now, after all that, the least likely manufacturer I've included has to be Rocky Mountain Construction or RMC. We already know this won't be a hybrid coaster, so we can rule that out, but their single rail coasters fit quite nicely into the criteria. For a busy park like Thorpe, the standard Raptor model's throughput would not be feasible, so if this were to be an RMC, it would have to be the first T-Rex coaster model. The elements would work perfectly with what RMC can deliver, however the cost of developing the T-Rex track would be too big of a risk for this ride. Now, for the last part of this video, I'll be going through the park's next steps in the planning process for this coaster. The public consultation started on the 9th of December 2021. It will then close on the 7th of January 2022. The park will then review the consultation responses and give a final design development in January/February 2022. They will then finalise and submit their application to Runnymede Council in spring 2022. And they expect a planning decision to be issued by Runnymede Council in late spring/summer 2022. With all that going to plan, the site construction should take place in late 2022. The opening date for this world-class coaster is not yet known, with the planning permission being granted in late spring/summer 2022 and the groundwork commencing around Fright Night's time next year. Expect an opening of 2023 or 24, as this is a massive project for the UK and Thorpe Park. Overall, my prediction is that ukrides will manufacture Project Exodus and it will become the best coaster in the UK, possibly one of the best in Europe, as it is certainly one of the most unique. To finish off, I'd like to thank everyone whose clips I've used in this video. Links to them will be in the description below. Thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you next time on Kalam Hussain Productions.